It's never been easier for families wanting a change from the usual Focus or Astra-sized hatchback to buy into something different, without any real downsides. Take this Hyundai ix35. SUV style, crossover trendiness and family hatchback efficiency all wrapped up in one nicely built, affordable package. Too good to be true? Let's find out. Should the increasing numbers of us who covet SUV ownership feel a twinge of guilt? The Green Lobby would have it so, but their argument that a conventional family estate or an MPV would be a more eco-friendly choice isn't usually borne out by the figures. Not at least if you're looking at a compact soft-roading SUV like this one, Hyundai's ix35. Did I say SUV? Hyundai certainly doesn't call it that. This apparently is another one of those crossovers. Family hatches with 4x4 styling cues that offer the tough looks people like without the running costs and weight that they don't. In truth, this model could and should steal sales from both categories. Small Toyota RAV4-like SUVs and Nissan Qashqai-like 4x4-ish family hatch crossovers. Now this wasn't a claim that its predecessor Hyundai's Tucson could ever make, not butch enough to be a proper 4x4, not car-like enough to be a crossover. Now with the ix35, the South Korean brand has tried a bit harder, producing a higher quality product with apparently no downsides over a conventional family hatchback. Now such a product usually comes with a significant price premium over said family hatchback, but no, you don't even really get that either. Sounds appealing, doesn't it? Let's check it out. Lots of cars are claiming to be crossovers these days, but some of them are more 4x4-ish than others. So there's a faint whiff of pretend about a Nissan Qashqai or a Peugeot 3008, but you don't feel it here. Like a Ford Kuga or a Skoda Yeti, this simply feels like a small SUV with all the clumsy, clunky bits taken out. So you sit on a proper SUV-like perch with a commanding view of the road, higher than you would in a Qashqai. And there's a properly engineered four-wheel drive system that seems to have been integrally built into the design rather than added on as an afterthought. You don't have to have it. The two-wheel drive variants save you a little in purchase price and running costs, but it seems a pity not to. Not least because the 2-litre 134 brake horsepower CRD diesel variant that most buyers will choose gets its power down on the road so much more effectively with all-wheel drive in place. Now, in this form, that's the spec that I have here. The ix35 spends most of its time with all the power going to the front, but should the front begin to slip or the wheels begin to spin, up to 50% of the torque can be directed rearwards. Should you get in a really boggy tight spot, which is rather unwise in this car, but should it happen, then you can also lock the centre differential to apportion power equally front and rear so that you can drag yourself out. Features such as downhill brake control, which helps you maintain a steady speed if you're going down a steep gradient, and hill start assist control, which helps you get a smooth getaway if you're heading back up, they're all on hand for light off-piste work. So this car is as much a proper off-roader as any SUV soft-roader can be. But can it at the same time be the ordinary, if more aggressively styled, family hatchback that many family buyers will actually want? Well, the answer is yes. If you're jumping into one of these from a straightforward Focus or Astra family hatchback, then you might notice a slightly firmer ride and a smidge more body roll around the corners, but it's nothing that you couldn't live with day to day. And indeed, the automatically adjusting two-stage dampers that tweak themselves for soft or hard settings depending on the road surface can manage even this, though they can't do much about the wind noise created by the boxier shape or the slightly vague power steering. There's certainly no doubt that this 2-litre turbo diesel motor is the one to have, though this car was also launched with a minority choice 2-litre petrol engine and was also developed to run with the newer 1.6-litre petrol and 1.7-litre diesel engines that Hyundai have more recently developed. You can ask your dealer about those options. Rest of 60 in this 2-litre CRDI diesel takes 10.2 seconds, which is quite as fast as you want to go in a car of this kind. And there's hardly any performance penalty if you go for 4-wheel drive rather than 2-wheel drive. For some time, this South Korean brand has been building beautifully engineered cars, then successfully disguising the fact with bland, formulaic styling. The iX35 suggests that things may be about to change in this respect. The German design and engineering team here showcasing their more adventurous, fluidic design language. Now, the result is a big step forward. It's the most dynamically styled Hyundai we've seen for some time, with its aggressive nose and sharply contoured flanks. The curves mask the chunky 4x4 dimensions very effectively and help give the car its alert stance on the road. Wanting not to scare off school-run mums, Hyundai points out that this car, based on their i30 Focus size model, is no longer than a Vauxhall Astra family hatch, but that still makes it nearly 4.5 metres long, 10 centimetres longer than a Nissan Qashqai. It certainly feels bigger than an Astra, both on the road and on your driveway, but that's mainly because of its height. Though admittedly shorter than the Tucson model it replaced, this perceived loftiness gives this car a feeling of bulk and presence that crossover buyers will probably rather like, while the tapering side windows and rear roofline will appeal to Focus segment families looking for something just that little bit different. So far, so good. At the wheel, you do pay a little for those dramatic exterior lines, the large front and rear corner pillars, plus the narrow rear windscreen restricting visibility a little, which is probably why Hyundai thoughtfully includes reversing parking sensors as standard equipment. You quickly adjust to it though, and these large door mirrors help. Once you're installed, everything falls to hand pretty easily, with the large amount of seat height and wheel reach and rake adjustment, meaning that finding the ideal driving position is as straightforward as it can be. Everything seems pretty nicely built despite the general absence of soft touch plastics. This satin finish mock aluminium looks nice, and it's generally enough to make this as good a cabin as you'll find on any car this side of £25,000, which is saying a lot for a Hyundai. As for backseat passengers, well, once they've adjusted to the smaller side windows that come courtesy of the high rising waistline, they'll be very comfortable as long as they're not overly tall. Large door openings are welcome too, making it easy to lump things like child seats in and out. This would be a fun family car. No fold-out third row of seats, of course, it isn't that big, but there is a lot of room back here. There's 591 litres of space. That's as big or bigger than many 5-seat mini MPVs can offer. And it's a figure that makes the size of a pricier Ford Kuga's hold at 360 litres look pretty embarrassing. You've got this useful luggage net to keep stuff from sliding around, and an underfloor compartment with a full-sized proper spare wheel rather than those silly space saver things. True, the 60/40 split folding rear seats don't fold completely flat for those needing extra room, but they do release up to 1,436 litres of total space. List pricing suggests that you'll be paying anywhere between £17,000 and £21,000 for your iX35, which means that in an age where a pretty bog standard 1.6 litre petrol Ford Focus estate will cost you the best part of 20 grand, it's not difficult to see this Hyundai's appeal. Now, the 2-litre CRDI diesel that most will want starts at around the £18,000 price point, and you'll need an extra £1,000 on top of that if you want 4-wheel drive. Crossover rivals like Nissan's Qashqai and Skoda's Yeti might offer a little more performance, but they'll cost you between £500 and £900 more, while an equivalent Ford Kuga will set you back another £3,500, and if you want one of those small SUVs, you could end up paying even more than that. Under the bonnet, I shouldn't stray too far from the 134 brake horsepower CRDI 16-valve diesel that I've been trying here, although this car was launched with a slightly cheaper 171 brake horsepower 2-litre petrol unit and developed to use Hyundai's newer 1.7 litre diesel and 1.6 litre petrol power plants. Now, if after covering the purchase price you've got any money left in the budget, I should use it to specify your vehicle with four-wheel drive before going for a pricier trim level. Base equipment trim is, after all, pretty generous, running to 17-inch alloy wheels, rear parking sensors, air conditioning, a decent quality 6-speaker CD stereo with iPod connectivity, leather trim for the steering wheel and gear knob, a trip computer, a Bluetooth connection incorporating voice recognition for your mobile phone, and something that you don't really expect to find at this price point, heated front and rear seats. Safety-wise, you can expect to find active anti-whiplash front head restraints, stability control and 6 airbags. Now, for some reason, Hyundai doesn't feel able to match its partner Kia's 7-year warranty, but the 5-year unlimited mileage warranty that you do get with this iX35 is still better than all other rivals, coming as it does with 5 years of breakdown cover and 5 years of annual health checks. Hyundai reckon that running costs should be very well contained, with repair and servicing over 3 years amounting to less than the sales rep down the road will probably be paying for his bog standard Ford Focus. Inevitably, there's a slight penalty to pay if you go for four-wheel drive rather than two-wheel drive, but it's very slight. This 2-litre turbo diesel model, it varies between 49.6 for the two-wheel drive and 51.4 for the four-wheel drive variant. CO2 emissions between 2 and 4-wheel drive versions of the 2-litre turbo diesel, well, they vary between 147 and 149 grams per kilometre of CO2. The 1.6-litre petrol, well, that manages 149 grams per kilometre of CO2, while the 1.7-litre diesel manages 139 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, these figures are pretty good going for a compact 4x4, and they're aided by Hyundai's clever ISG idle stop and go start-stop system, which cuts the engine when you're stuck in traffic or at the lights to save fuel. So what do we have? The tough looks of an SUV, the sensible practicality of a 5-seat mini MPV, and the affordability of a family hatchback. These are the facts behind an iX35 model good enough to attract many new buyers to the Hyundai brand. It's nicely built, efficient to run, and quite capable in four-wheel drive form of getting everywhere that an ordinary family driver might want to go. No, of course it's not perfect. A class-leading family hatchback might offer slightly sharper handling and better all-round visibility, but these aren't deal-breaking issues. More important will be this car's competitive pricing and lengthy warranty. It's a Hyundai of the modern era, and that makes it a very impressive car indeed.